I grew up in the Glen Park, a south section of Gary, and it was like, if you want to call it a subdivision, it was Junedale. Glen Park was a mixture of Polish, you had Macedonian, Lithuanian, Greek, German, I being Slovak descent, and it was families that had, after the war, were looking for housing, and it was a housing development within the city. Now the downtown section, the old established section, you had your Tolliston, you had Etna, your Miller area. It was a big melting pot of, steel workers and industrial workers. The mainstay was U.S. Steel. There was always jobs at U.S. Steel. Even when you were in high school, if you were old enough, you can get a summer job at U.S. Steel. U.S. Steel was like one big family back in the day, and that's how Gary was. But U.S. Steel, you had Goodfellow Club, they had camps, and I went to a couple years, I think I went 3 or 4 years to Goodfellow Camp. They had the boys' camp and the girls' camp, and that was out by Chesterton. They had a U.S. Steel concert production where they had dancers, singers, full orchestra. Picture that Memorial Auditorium down in Gary. And it was the U.S. Steel Spring Concert, and it was just professional people that worked there. You had the U.S. Steel carolers that went around. A lot of people don't remember them now because it's been so far back, but back when we were in elementary school, the carolers would come and they'd dress up in the Dickens era with the top hats and stuff. And it was just like a big family. They'd have tours of the steel mill, and where you could bring your families in. They'd have hot dogs and Cokes for everybody, and you were proud. You were part of the organization. It was part of your city. It was like, see, that's what it's hard to explain, because U.S. Steel and Gary kind of like went right together. Because back in the old days, U.S. Steel they would supply power to the neighborhoods, and they also supplied coke for people to burn in their coal furnaces and stuff. And so it was all, a community thing. I remember it vividly when Armstrong first put his foot on the moon. It was 1969, that July. After the United States landed on the moon, the technology just changed everything. And you can see it just took months after that. And, it wasn't that long, because I remember after things started getting smaller, radios that they made with tubes and everything started being, solid state. Because cars back then were just like big tanks. Everything was just huge, and heavy. But the steel mills, that was, their mainstay, the auto industry and everything. But when things started changing to plastic, in cars, like the buttons that went on, that was all used to be metal, or your window crank arms and that was all metal. It was all plastic. Everything, the dashboards were metal, that became plastic. And I still believe that strongly today. That was the big turning point when the United States, went on the moon. People don't realize that, the technology that came to get those people there, and then that was that they had years before, but then that was released out. And that's part of the reason, I think, where the change was with Gary and other cities. When I first went on management back in the 70s, we'd watch a video in a classroom and how we have to fight and be top #1 steel producers and everything. And we have to beat Japan at their own game, and we can do it and everything. And it would get you charged up. And then I remember one day I had like this feeling how you get in your stomach that something's not quite right. And this is just my own personal experience, but I walked out. It was right down on Broadway in the main gate, by the main gate there, our main office. I walked out, and we're all pumped up. Yeah, it was like, team, let's go, let's win the Super Bowl. And there was these two big tour buses, and they let them out, and I saw all these Japanese people. They were nice people, they're hello, and they've got the Nikons with the and they're going to take a tour of the mill, and they're taking pictures. That was the beginning that I thought of how we're, this country is spread out with the industry with different countries and, putting their assets, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.